Hello, guys, and welcome to the third podcast of us talking about international football. This time we are talking about the ending of the World Cup qualifiers, since all six confederations basically finished them all. We do have a couple of games left, but the main confederation qualifiers have finished. Ryubix?
Yes, hello everyone, and thank you for coming today for this, as Sam said, the third episode. And with us today we have two new invites. Is that the
We
word?
do.
Yes, we do have two new invites. The first of those two is mainstreet. Hello mainstreet, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing well myself, and I'm happy to host you today.
Happy to be here.
And our
And then,
second, oh, you want to say it yourself, Sam?
sure. The second person we have is another YouTuber, and he goes by AD.
Yeah, hello, I'm AD744 and I'm glad to be on here.
Do you want to present real quick your YouTube channel since you are doing a collaboration with us today?
Sure. So basically my channel name is AD744. It's basically a football channel. Try to cover as much as I can, international club based. And yeah, that's pretty much a synopsis of my channel. You could also find me on Twitter as well if you want to contact me. The username is at arpondos744. So you can find me. The links will be provided in the description below, right?
Yes, I will do. I will put any credentials and social medias you want me to share as part of our
Yeah.
collaboration.
Yeah. So check the description for all the links and stuff.
Okay, since now we have presented ourselves, let's start with the first confederation of tonight, or today based on where you live, the CONCACAF World Cup Qualifiers.
Okay.
So, does anyone have something to say about this confederation since you are all the three of you from America?
Yeah. So, going into the final window, everybody had a simple task to complete, and those that had control of their own destiny met the assignment. Canada only needed the 3 points. That's exactly what they got in the final window, beating Jamaica at home, not getting any points on the road. Mexico and the United States also needed just to get a little bit what they got. That 0-0 draw in Mexico was really the key to set that up for both teams. And they both got the win in the second match. And that's everything up nicely. And we have Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. qualified. Look pretty good.
Oh yeah, that's a very big moment since, well, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there are still the sub-confederations in CONCACAF with NAFU for Canada, America, United States.
Technically, yes. Over the past 5 years or so, that's been really de-emphasized. There used to be a Central American Cup and a Caribbean Cup that would lead into the CONCACAF Gold Cup. But now with the Nations League, they've really gotten rid of that. So yes, technically there are three divisions in that sense. You have the North American, Central American, and Caribbean subfederations, but nobody really uses them anymore. They don't really have much meaning, at least at the international level. From the club level, they do still have some meaning. There's things like the Caribbean Club Shield and such, but yeah, it really is just this final round is just the top eight.
Yeah, even so they are not used anymore, it's still a good day since all the three big countries that make the North American continent have made the World Cup, all the three together like brothers. And I think you can probably say it with me, but having the three future hosts of the 2026 World Cup going into the 2022 together is something. Maybe a sign like North America is ready for the World Cup, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, of course, you expect Mexico and the United States to qualify every time. You know, it's considered a massive failure in the U.S. whenever we don't qualify, as the disaster 4 years ago. But for Canada, this is their first qualification in about, I think, 30 years, 40 years, something like that. And they've really come on strong in the past 2 years, come out of nowhere. They were not one of the big five going into this qualifier. And they've really shown that they are the class of CONCACAF right now. They won the group. Mexico did not win the group as they usually do. The United States did not even win the group, as sometimes happens. Canada won the group. And they look like the best team right now.
Yeah, I did want to mention the U.S. and Mexico did not look very good. Whether that's from like just a player standpoint, which would be more Mexico, or if it was a coaching standpoint, which I feel is more the U.S. Like the U.S. barely qualified. They literally just ticked all the boxes just to make sure that they qualified minimum. And that's not really how you want to play these qualifiers. You really want to get ready to play the World Cup because these are technically your friendly matches before the big stage.
Well, I mean, it is CONCACAF. Nobody really had any true freebies except for Canada's last game. Even Mexico technically still did need to secure 3 points in their final match against El Salvador, which wasn't hard, but they still needed to do that.
Yeah, and the U.S. lost, 2-0 to Costa Rica?
They lost 2-0, and they needed to not lose 5-0.
Right.
5-0 was the worst they could lose by.
Right.
To Costa
Anything
Rica.
you want to add, AD?
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm looking from the USA point of view. I think because I'm going to say this right now, I think we have the best players in this confederation, but for us to finish third, even behind Mexico, despite beating them in the qualifiers and actually not conceding a goal against them, they finished higher than us, which is kind of sad. I mean, we got 4 points against them, and they only got 1 against us, and they still finished higher. I mean, I just think that shows how. I think it shows the levels of the coaching stuff, because I do agree with Sam's earlier point that I feel like for Mexico, the bigger issue for them is not really necessarily the coach, it's more of the players underperforming. Because I feel like for the USA, I feel like Berhalter is really the big issue, and I'm very, very skeptical with him in the World Cup, and it could be disastrous, and USA obviously got a tough group. Obviously, I'm sure we'll discuss about that in a later topic, but yeah, I mean, you gotta give props to Canada, man. I mean, I think it's a very impressive achievement for them to go first, ahead of both USA and Mexico, which is incredible. And it's an astonishing achievement because I think people need to respect Canadian football because this Canadian team has been on the works for a long time now. And I believe, I'm going to say this right now, I think they have the best manager in CONCACAF, hands down, because he's done a great job with this team. He took charge of the women's national team, and he was good, successful with them, and they have a proper coach now for the men's side. So you can see there's like a you can see like it's a sensible hire. It's not like just like your friends and you're hired. Like it's actually like there's actually a process.
Yeah, and that's a good point because I think one of the main issues with the U.S. and you were complaining about the coaching, and the reason that most U.S. fans complain about the coach so much is just the sheer corruption of the hiring process. Right? And that that is a big problem. That being said, what I've actually seen on the field, he seems to make very good substitutions, very helpful ones consistently, and he can't help the fact that we haven't had the A team like at all this year. There's always been somebody out on injury, whether it's McKennie or Dest or Stefan. Like somebody has always been out, and it's like so. But, of course, but that also means that, the depth. I don't know that we have the depth. Yes, if our best 11 are out there, we might be the best team out there in the United States. But once we have to start going into the bench, and that's the issue. We had to every game.
2 more things to point out. So one, the feat that Canada pulled off with winning the final group is even more amazing in the fact that they started from the very first round. They were not considered to be one of the best in CONCACAF. They were considered to be middle of the pack at best. And the fact that they turned that around within, 2 or 4 years, that's an amazing achievement. The other thing would be how awful Honduras was in these qualifiers.
Yeah, Honduras absolutely has fallen apart, and they need to rebuild that program from the ground up. That was that was shameful for one of the traditional Big Five powers. They finished
Yeah.
dead last, and it just every game looked like an easy 3 points for everybody involved, even in San Pedro Sula, which rarely happens.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, they did win their final match against Mexico in San Pedro Sula, they lost that match. It was Mexico, 1-0. But and yeah, I get it's Mexico, but still losing games at home in CONCACAF, especially for the Big Five, that's rough.
Yeah.
And they just look bad at all 14 matches.
Yeah.
Ryubix, go ahead, Eddie.
Yeah. So yeah. Honduras, as I said, they were very disappointing, and I think this was at least many people expected them to challenge for a fourth place spot, for the playoffs, and maybe even challenge for direct. But they've just been awful. I think I don't know what's happened to them. I think it seems like the defense just been bad, and all around they've just been really bad. As for Jamaica, I also think they were disappointing as well. I mean, they only won 2 games. 2 games. I mean, this is a team that's got some great talented players, and I feel like Jamaica really underperformed, and I feel like they should do a lot better than
I,
sixth in my opinion.
I may object with you, Sam, on like not. I do not want to say they are a bad team at all, but to say that they are disappointing may be a lie. I feel that in those qualifiers we might have, outside of Honduras, of course, seen that the CONCACAF level in itself have improved. Um, if we can put out that Mexico seems a bit weaker than usual, I still expect them to reach the round of 16 in the World Cup. But I mean, United States and Canada are both producing more and more talents that are going into Europe. We can't stop naming them all. Pulisic, Dest, Alfonso Davis. More and more players from a continent are making it to the big leagues in Europe. And even
And novice.
Jamaica, Panama, Costa Rica are producing more and more players too. And since we are in a single final group with all the elite of CONCACAF, of course, in the end, there will be some teams that will have lower results than the others. And sadly, those are for the smaller countries. Jamaica, Salvador, and the very poor Honduras that totally failed the qualifiers and need to start with a new generation.
So I mean, the thing is, like, we want to say Jamaica's disappointing. I really feel like Jamaica was exactly what we thought they were. Like, yes, people often can say, sometimes will say, "Oh, Jamaica's doing good." They made a Gold Cup semifinal. But what people often forget when they look at occasional Jamaica does well in the Gold Cup is that the United States and Mexico play B teams in the Gold Cup quite frequently. They save their top teams for the World Cup qualifying, and so you have the MLS, random 11 essentially out there for the United States quite often. And yeah, Jamaica can play on that level. Jamaica does not play on the level with the Pulisics and the Deaths of the world, or the Mexico top 11, and they're just not that good. And I never really expect anything more. I do want to point out that we say Jamaica got 2 wins. Let's be clear just about how big Honduras's failure was. Jamaica's 2 wins were both against Honduras.
Yeah.
Honduras and a home against Honduras.
Wait, seriously?
Yes,
Yes.
I just looked this up.
Oh,
Jamaica's
2-1.
only 2 victories were the 2 matches they played against Honduras.
They won 2-1 at home, and they won 2-0 in Honduras.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean.
oh yeah, that's very. Oh yeah. Now that you put it that way, I even measure even more the failure of Honduras. And when earlier I said about they need a new generation of players to bring back the team in a good shape, even that is false in the sense that I sometimes watch the youth World Cups, for the U19, the
Yeah.
new U17 World Cups, and even in those, the Honduras team are getting their asses handed over to them. Like, do you remember when Erling Haaland was revealed to the world? It was against Honduras when he scored 9 goals. He scored a hat trick of hat tricks at Honduras in the Youth World Cup. Even the
Yeah.
youth generation are taking very bad scores in the Youth World Cup.
So one thing I would caution about with the unders in when you're assessing CONCACAF teams is like, yes, Honduras got beat up in the World Cup, but they qualified. But part of the issue with the U's is, if you go out into Europe or Africa and you're a 16-year-old who is very good, you're going professional. That's not really the case in CONCACAF. We don't really do it that way, especially with how the United States and Canada system works. We have the high school systems, the NCAA enforced amateurism. Yes, the occasional player will bolt and they will, essentially leave the U.S. To go out into Mexico or Europe to start getting paid. But that amateurism thing does mean that our youth teams tend not to be reflective of what we actually can do out here. And so I don't know how much I would want to read into that.
I think that issue is mostly about the United States and Canada. Because in Latin American countries, it's more closer to the CONMEBOL or UEFA towards if you are good or not, you can enter the big leagues. While USA Canada, it's more about if you have money or if you have the contacts to play in the pro leagues.
Right, but that just means they have. But the point is that those, even those Central American qualifying teams, have an easier run because those teams are artificially weakened that they're playing against.
Yeah, that might say the least. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
I'll let you go.
No, go ahead. I was
Okay,
gonna move on to OFC, but if you wanted to say something real quick.
I think we should let's briefly discuss about the other Costa Rica, Panama, El Salvador briefly.
That's fair. We haven't talked about them at all.
Yeah, El Salvador. I think this was just about expected. I didn't really expect them to do that much, but they got like 10 points, which I thought was it's a respectable feat, and I think this is a team that's like the works for 2026. I think 2020 just came a bit too early, but in 2026 with USA, Mexico, like Canada hosting directly, they're gonna it'll be really interesting to see which nation gets that qualifies here. So yeah, I was impressed with El Salvador. I just think that the issue for them is just I think they need to up their goal scoring. I think it's the big issue for them is that I think that's the big issue, and that's why they weren't able to get more points.
Up their goal scoring, as in find a way through the defense, or having finishing.
Finishing, I think finishing's let them down. Because that goal difference -10 is not that good. Like you're not going to qualify with -10 goal difference the next edition of the World Cup. So.
Yeah, I mean, one of the issues El Salvador has, and this is sort of true for a lot of Central American sides, but it's very clear with the El Salvador team, which is that because there is a lot of communication and dual citizenship thing going on with El Salvador and the United States, they tend not to get the top players. I mean, just look at the Roldan brothers. Christian is the better brother. He plays for the United States.
When you look about it, El Salvador are only fifth in the numbers of defense. Like they are only the fourth team in terms of goals conceded. So I think the defense is not the main objective to do if we want to improve that country.
Yeah, that's what I said. Attack. As for Costa Rica, Panama, I mean Costa Rica, man. I mean, the turnaround they had this year was incredible. I still can't believe they were literally they were very close to making the World Cup, which would have been incredible, because they started the qualifiers very poor, and now all of a sudden they're picking up points on the road. I look at that win they had in El Salvador. That was a big win. Then holding on to beat Canada at home. I know they were down, I know Canada was down at 10 men, but still that's impressive. They keep clean sheets, and they even got a draw in Mexico. I mean, they got good results against all three big teams and the Confederation. I think that's really impressive. I mean, you got to give a ton of props for that.
Yeah, they turned it around in 2022 for sure. One concern that I think I do have with Costa Rica is they do look like a very old team out there. Yes, they've been doing well, but even if they go ahead and get through New Zealand, it's going to be tough. That's a very old team, and I don't know what it's going to look like in 2026. They would be the favorites to win the group in 2026 with U.S. and Canada out, but they're going to need new players. Brian Ruiz is what, 35, 36?
Yeah, that is also a good point that mainstreet brings up.
Yeah, just to finish on this, and we can go to the second confederation. I'm pretty sure it will also answer AD. I think that if Costa Rica qualify for 2022, it will be their last World Cup with the what I want to call the gold generation, since most of them were in 2014. After that, most of the players will probably stop playing football since they do not have age anymore. And I'm pretty sure it will be the occasion for Panama to make profit of their own golden era and probably surpass and become the first team in Central America and maybe reach 2026.
Yeah.
That's how I
do
see
want to
things.
mention. I do want to mention. Costa Rica did what they could to even qualify automatically. They just, because of their poor start, they didn't have the goal difference, but they had a 9-point window.
Yeah.
They beat Canada.
Yeah.
They beat
Yeah, they
El
completed the
Salvador,
assignment. They did everything.
and they beat the United States. They did all they could. They just couldn't get enough goals to be able to surpass the U.S. and
Yeah.
Mexico.
Yeah, Sam, imagine we didn't beat Panama 5-1. We won like 1-0.
Right.
Yeah, that would have been scary.
Yeah,
But that's what I was saying earlier, is that the U.S. literally did the minimum they could to check the boxes to automatically qualify.
Yeah, let's talk about Panama briefly here. They start off very, very good, but I think the issue for Panama is that I think the inability to get results on the road will actually really hurt them in the end. And that draw against Honduras, man, that was a bad result. I mean,
So I'm gonna be a little cynical here, and I'm gonna say that I don't think Panama was ever that good. The reason they had success early was because Costa Rica and Honduras are really bad, and it's very easy to look good when those two teams had a really bad start, and Honduras even never recovered. So like I think they were always playing above their heads, and they ultimately got the expected result where we probably expected they were going to be, at least once we realized that Canada was legitimate.
yeah. I mean, you do make a good point in the sense like I never really rated this team that highly. But you know, I still think they're a decent team and that kind of thing. But but like I said, I think perhaps they might have capitalized upon more of Honduras and Costa Rica's inabilities, and maybe Jamaica's to some extent, to qualify. To potentially qualify. But as I said, I think the huge thing that cost them was the results on the road, and I think their style I think is very very leaky in the back. I mean, we saw how Canada exposed them at home, and even USA did too as well. And that although this team can score goals, their defense is very very leaky. I mean, like it seems like whenever you just score one against them, they concede a second, then they concede a third. It's just like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, surely. Now that we have made an entire circle about CONCACAF, I propose that we move to the next confederation.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so after CONCACAF, we have OFC, so we are going directly to Oceania.
Yep.
So
Oh boy.
So little reminder for the people that haven't followed that confederation, I mean in the viewers obviously. The entire qualifiers was played in a single tournament in Qatar. It was about in 10 days, I think, something like that, a little OFC Nations Cup. In Group A, there was two teams that was forced to forfeit. It was Cook Islands and Vanuatu due to COVID cases in the Vanuatu squad.
And on top of that, Cook Islands was originally scheduled to have to play a qualifying match against Tonga, but then Tonga had to withdraw.
Yes, you're right.
There's three withdrawn teams.
You are right.
I think a natural disaster took place. If I'm not mistaken, that's why they withdrew. Right?
Yeah, it was the volcano eruption.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it was not a COVID issue. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, okay, that's a good point.
For Tonga, it was the volcano. For the other two, it was COVID.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah, so it's kind of weird, man.
So yeah, in the end, I think it was a grand total of 5 teams out of 11 that just didn't play at all or was forced to cancel at some point.
Six teams played because the Group B was intact. It's still the 14 group, and then Group A.
Yes, that's what I said. Out of the 11 members of OFC, there was both Samoas that forfeited before there was even a draw at all. Then Tonga due to the natural disaster, and then Vanuatu and Cook Islands due to COVID. And some people even started to think, will those qualifiers end at all?
Yeah, no kidding.
So that brings Group A to only one match played, I mean, there was two, since Cook Islands, Solomon Islands was played, but was voided as Cook Islands was forced to forfeit.
But I will point out that match still counts for rating points, and therefore Cook Island will get a rating for the first time in a while.
Oh yeah, they are.
They was demoted to friendly, but that will still count in the FIFA rankings.
Yeah.
Yes. So technically Group I was just a quarterfinal. Technically,
Yep.
because both teams advanced anyway. So sadly for me, since I'm pro Tahiti and New Caledonia,
Yeah.
yeah, Solomon Islands was better and won 3-1 to Tahiti, so they took the first seed to the semifinals. And I think it was one of you three, but I don't remember who, that mentioned to me at one point that the Solomon Islands League is becoming one of the best in the Confederation. Are kinda like the one with all the money, and they get all the top players, which strengthened both their leagues and the players that are in the national team, explaining why they are a top nation in Oceania.
Yeah, I was reading an article the other day, and they were saying that there's like between 5 and 7 Solomon Islands players that were going into Australia for training and for like a scouting trip, basically for playing for Australian club sides. Excuse me.
So yes, Solomon Islands are becoming quite a team. Even if so for many people Oceania are just amateur national teams, and in this fact they are right. But Solomon Islands are really giving everything they can to develop themselves and become even an average team, and I think it's admirable.
Yeah, and eventually they might have something. They're not there yet, but yeah, eventually they might have a decent team at some point. They're getting there. I think I was really disappointed in New Caledonia, though. You mentioned that, and they were a team that made the finals a couple cycles ago, and to then come out and do this, yikes! What happened here?
Yeah, so just little note to say, I love the fact that there are many. Tahiti is still composed of many players from the Teo family. Like the only goal scorers from
Yeah,
Tahiti in this first match was what was Alvin Teo? Yes, it was Alvin
yeah,
Teo.
Wow.
It. I mean, you can basically call that the Teo team or something. Like, I don't know much,
yeah,
but
yeah. I mean,
I love
I
that
think I
fact.
remember all the way back in 2014 in Brazil. Yeah, seeing the Tejao brothers play in the Confederations Cup. I guess it was 2013.
14 was the World
Yeah,
Cup.
yeah, because they actually beat New Zealand to get there. Yeah, that was that was an interesting experience. But yeah, they're still around, I guess. But it also just speaks to lack of depth because we're talking about 9 years later and they're still the stars of the Asian team. And that's what happens with small islands, I guess.
Yeah, guys. I think one thing we have to mention. I think Papua New Guinea. I think they were like one of the lowest ranked nations in the OFC region, and I think they came second, if I'm not mistaken. You guys
They
can
did.
fact check.
Well, they came second in Group B, yeah.
I think that's a really impressive achievement. And
Uh,
I was pretty surprised. Again. I didn't expect them to get second, honestly. So
it should be reminded that Papua New Guinea was in the final of the last OFC Nations Cup back in 2016. So it's not. Maybe in current times, yes, I agree, as the team lost a bit of its how can I say that, force,
Yeah,
skills, and everything, but they are still in the recent history quite a good nation in Oceania. They are still capable to reach Final Four a few times. But
one thing we have to keep in mind with Papua New Guinea also is that combined with New Zealand, they're like those two countries are like 80% or more of the population of all the Oceania. Like they are the big giants just in terms of sheer population. So anytime they're not at the top of the table is a bit worrying. I mean, they've got millions of people, and we're talking about countries that largely are in the hundreds of thousands at best. And that is something to watch for them. They have expectations on them. They largely met them until they ran into, as we say, a Solomon side that looked very good.
Yeah, about that Group B, I must also say that I I remember when I was some times ago. I think it was with you, Sam. We watched the World Cup draw for Oceania, and I told to you Group B was a group of death, and it would be
Hmm.
hard for any team in it except New Zealand. I
Yeah.
wasn't wrong. New Caledonia got very trash. I'm very disappointed.
Yeah, we were also very right about Group A being the group of life because every team in Group A made it.
Yeah.
It was more than life and death. Huh? There was COVID involved. Huh? FC COVID.
So to be fair to New Caledonia, you say you're disappointed with that last match, but they lost 2 hard 1-goal games. At that point, they're already eliminated. Were they even mentally involved in the match against New Zealand? Perhaps not. New Zealand took them out 7-1, but that could have very easily just been a neither side really cared about that game at that point, and so the team with more depth was going to just eventually find the goals.
Yeah, I just want to point out that even so they lost. I mean, no, they were last in the group. New Caledonia was the only side in the World Qualifiers that actually managed to score on New Zealand.
True, that they found one. Yeah, Psycho. Yeah, he got one.
Like, there are some teams that can say, yeah, I won the World Cup twice, I won the Euro Cup twice, and there is New Caledonia. We beat New Zealand goalkeeper once.
Yeah.
We do not have the same objective.
Well, yeah, I mean that just go back to that Confederations Cup. Tahiti got that one against Nigeria, same sort of thing, right?
Yeah. I think we should discuss quickly about Fiji.
I mean, with not
I
a lot
don't know
of
what to say about
people.
FIFA. Really,
Not a lot of people were expecting them to go far. They just see them as these teams that will do its best to grab some points in the group stage, and that's what they did.
Yep.
They were third. They were not better or not lower than most people expected them for them to be.
Yeah. Interesting there. I guess we should move on to discuss semis briefly.
The bracket stage.
The Solomon
Yeah.
Islands beating Papua New Guinea with a Lea'i hat trick.
There was
We
no
Al
hat
got
trick,
2
no
of
hat
them.
tricks in that match.
Scored a
Oh,
goal.
was it a
Yeah.
different match that he had the hat trick?
No, the
Yeah.
hat trick was against Tahiti in Group A.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
okay.
like
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. He did score the third goal to get them into play New
Yep.
Zealand, though.
man, I feel bad for Tahiti. They were so close against New Zealand.
So
Yeah.
Solomon Islands are still a strong side, but it seems that Papua New Guinea was becoming better and better. So I mean, they only lost 1-0 to New Zealand. So maybe in the upcoming years we should expect the Papua New Guinea to become stronger. And maybe I should remind you that it's possible that we get a 12th OFC member for the 2026 qualifiers.
Yeah.
As Bougainville is supposed to gain independence from Papua New Guinea in the
Yeah.
upcoming years. So
Yeah,
New Zealand.
maybe we will get another strong member. Who knows?
Yeah. And New Zealand won 5-0 in the final. I mean,
Yeah, and the big struggle for all these OFC teams as well is going to be that, yeah, you can get better, but New Zealand's also on the up. They continue to develop and get better, and that's the team you're constantly chasing, and to surpass them is going to be a big, just going to be hard.
Yeah, it doesn't help that they're similar to Australia, where they have the infrastructure to be able to, like the clubs, the stadiums, even the population. Like they have the biggest population of all the OFC nations.
Yep. Yeah. And they're the most developed nation. Yeah.
Wait,
you guys think there's a
what country you said was the most populated?
New Zealand.
No, it is not New Zealand. It is Papua New Guinea.
Really?
New Zealand.
Oh yeah, I guess it would be. Yeah,
New
you're right.
Zealand 5 million. Papua New Guinea, I think it's 9 million. I'm not sure.
Yeah, 8 or 9, something like that. Yeah.
But Papua New Guinea isn't as developed as New Zealand for sure.
But the development is the big thing. The economy of New Zealand is a lot is a lot more developed.
Yeah,
and they have a lot better infrastructure.
Yeah,
on
that matter, they are the top. Yes.
Yeah, do you guys think there's a possibility that New Zealand might do what Australia did and go to the AFC region?
No.
No, and it was cancelled by FIFA themselves. I mean, no, it was that is the moment I bring a very nice fact. When Australia moved to OFC, it was proposed that either New Zealand was moved also to AFC, or FIFA even proposed that they join CONMEBOL instead. And actually, it was on the
Yeah, that
paper
would work out.
already. They were everything was ready to transfer them from CONMEBOL, and in the last minute, FIFA cancelled the project themselves after being the ones that proposed it, because they just noticed that if New Zealand were to leave OFC will be like a dead confederation, because New Zealand have at least semi-pro players, they have a semi-pro league, and they manage from time to time to qualify for the World Cup, so OFC needs that team that might be able to go to the World Cup. If New Zealand leave, OFC is just dead. They will
Yeah.
10 archipelagos. They can't even beat any team from outside of their confederation. They will
Yeah.
be isolated, and that's why New Zealand will probably never leave the OFC region in football.
The other thing is Australia and New Zealand aren't quite in their position. Like Australia, part of the reason Australia left was because they felt they had better qualifying runs. As one of the top teams in AFC. If New Zealand went to AFC, they're never going to qualify for the World Cup. They're not one of the best 6, 7, 8 teams. They're not close. So it'll be a lot harder than just the current runs of beating them once or beating a CONCACAF team once. Like that's. So I think that's also a consideration there.
Yeah. So I guess we could briefly discuss about the match against. Are we gonna discuss about the Interconfederation playoff just briefly here?
Yeah, I mean New Zealand's going to play Costa Rica. We talked about both these confederations already.
Is it a one-off, or are they playing two matches?
It's one game in Qatar in June.
Okay.
All the playoffs this year are on neutral ground. So if New Zealand were to beat Costa Rica, I think they would be the first country ever to qualify for the World Cup by playing all their games in a different continent.
Yeah,
in the same country and city.
Yeah.
So, a weird fit to say the least.
Yeah, I think most of us agree that Costa Rica should probably be New Zealand.
And
I think Costa Rica would be embarrassed if they did not manage that. But New Zealand is a scrappy team. They've got chances, and we've seen Costa Rica choke. So I would say it's a game worth tuning into.
It's a scrappy team versus an older team, and it's going to be a good game to watch, I think, as well.
I want to say it's pretty even, maybe like 60-40 for Costa Rica. I think both sides have their chances, to be fair.
Yeah, that's true, because this isn't prime Costa Rica. Like, if it was prime Costa Rica, then I don't think there would be much.
This is not 2014 Costa Rica, who drew with England and won their group.
Yeah, so I mean, this will be interesting, but I still do expect Costa Rica to fail and make the World Cup. But New Zealand, who knows? They could maybe surprise us, and we've had a lot of surprises in the qualifiers, so
we'll never know. But I propose that we move to the next confederation.
Yeah, let's do that.
Since we already finished OFC. So after Oceania, we have Africa.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, the playoffs.
Yeah, the playoffs.
Oh, man.
So, do you want to make them by order?
Yeah, let's go by order, I guess.
Okay, so the first one is Egypt versus Senegal, the remix of the last AFCON final.
Yeah, that was just disappointing for Egypt. That they had chances, they just didn't. I mean, Senegal's great. I mean, don't get me wrong, that they deserve that win, but
yeah.
Yeah. Also, it was like rave day in Senegal in Dakar.
Yeah. Seemed like Egypt, like as soon as they got that 1-0 lead, they were just like defending for their lives, like it's like all his career as well, and it's just I just don't understand this kind of tactic, like especially on the road. Like I can understand doing it at home because it's at home, right? But on the road, you should actually try to score a goal, because if they had scored a goal, guys, I believe Senegal would need to have scored 3. and that's gonna be very difficult to do against that Egypt defense, right?
Yeah.
And
You should never want it to go to penalties. You really shouldn't.
yeah, I mean it's just, and also the whole laser thing, that thing to take into account too.
That was nasty stuff. As always, I never
Yeah, I
respect.
mean,
I never respect supporters that do that.
no. But it is the sort of thing that you almost have to expect sometimes with when national teams play, and when you're playing on the road, it's going to be nasty. And so your best solution whenever you're on the road is play as little as possible, which means do not send it to extra time, do not send it to penalties, get that goal, get out of there in 90 minutes, and they couldn't do that.
Yeah. And Mane, yeah, Salah is disappointed, and he even missed his penalty. And Mane, once again, wins the penalty shootout for Senegal. And it seems like right now, because Mane's in good form right now, I believe this year. I mean, yesterday he just scored a brace against Man City, so I think Mane definitely back in good form. And as for Salah, I think this year in particular, he's just been really weak off in his form. So, yeah. I guess we should move on to the next game.
Yep.
Yeah, alors, so the next game is Cameroon versus Algeria.
Oh man, I think that was the toughest one to call, in my personal opinion, because it was so close. I mean, Algeria, man, I feel really bad for them. They were literally minutes away from making the World Cup, and literally the last second of the game they missed out. I mean that is insane. I feel so bad. I feel really bad, man.
Cameroon only won an extra time because of away goal, right?
Yeah, and I gotta say, I really dislike the notion of away goals still mattering once you sent the thing to extra time. I think that's something that FIFA really needs to fix. I know that they're talking about getting rid of away goals altogether for the next cycle, and that's great. But like, at the minimum, once you started that whistle for the next 30 minutes, like, no, you shouldn't be balanced on the last 30, but because you were playing more time on the road, that means you're the better. No.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I mean,
totally insane. Totally insane.
It's one thing if you have the same amount of time on the road as home, but once that doesn't happen, that's just ridiculous.
yeah, I do agree that away goals and extra time is a bit unfair, and I don't think that should count. But I generally like the notion of away goals. I think that's a great idea. And then we're seeing how, like, because like I feel like if you put away goals, like it gives an incentive for the teams to attack, because we've seen the Champions League, man. I mean, it's just, I mean, some of the games have been really boring. Like some teams don't even want to go out and to actually score a goal, just trying to go for a 0-0 draw, and it's just like pathetic, man. So I like away goals, but I do agree with mainstreet that away goals and extra time is unfair. I don't agree with that. But regardless to say, Algeria, man, what made them really good, guys, in the AFCON 2019 was the defense. The defense was really the reason why they won the AFCON, right? This year in particular, as we saw in the AFCON, defensively they looked really bad. Defensively they looked really bad, and Ivory Coast exposed them. And even Equatorial Guinea exposed them too. And I think that's one of the big hallmarks of why Algeria's been struggling this year, because I don't know if you guys remember, they had like an insane unbeaten streak. I think someone can fact check me, but I think it was like 36 or something like that. It was like a lot of games. I forgot exactly, but Cameroon, man, I mean, this is incredible. They even got a new manager for the playoffs. I forgot his name. And Samuel Eto'o, man, is the FA president. I mean, it's incredible. And who would have thought that both nations would win their games on the road? I mean, I found that incredible. So I'll let the others speak about this one.
I think an issue that we are all passing over or forgetting simply is also there was a lot of suspicious referee decisions that also lead to maybe Algeria's nightmare, the fact of being eliminated for the second time in a row.
Yes, that's true.
I can't comment on that because I didn't watch the match, so I'm just going to stay out of this one.
I didn't watch the match either. Did any of you watch the match?
I could not, but I have followed the, how can I say that, the shitstorm that followed the game for weeks, and for weeks. Many people, especially Algerians, of course, were
Well, yeah, they lost.
were complaining about the refereeing, to the point FIFA accepted to relook about it and give a final decision this month. So in the few days we will know if Algeria and Cameroon will be replayed or not.
Yeah, I mean, weren't people complaining about the whole Ghana South Africa thing?
About the what?
Because Ghana got like a contentious penalty against South Africa, and that
That
actually made them
that match was replayed. That match was replayed. So
go.
actually, a lot of people were using this example as to FIFA as you see, you already did it once. Why can't you do it twice?
I mean, fundamentally, poor refereeing and um, controversial refereeing decisions is a thing that has marred CAF for a long time, and frankly, it's going to continue to mar CAF for as long as the entire world continues to not really put the economic development into Africa that it needs to get them on a economic equality basis with the rest of the world. You have corruption when you have people that feel that they are underpaid and that their life is not where it should be, and that's why it is not as much of an issue in, say, UEFA or in CONCACAF, where we have largely developed nations.
Right.
It's true.
Having VAR might help as well. I know that's kind of controversial in itself, but
Yeah, but I think CAF doesn't use VAR because they can't afford it. The systems that FIFA's approved are pretty expensive.
Okay, that would make sense.
And not all
So
stadiums.
that's also part of this.
Not all stadiums are suited for the VAR, but I think all the 10 nations that was in this round, and I mean it is the final round before the World Cup. You have when you are in this round, you have you have 1 feet in the World Cup. Wait, 1 feet in the World Cup. It should be mandatory, especially when all the stadiums, and I have seen the resumes on YouTube about all the stadiums. They all have the capacity to have the VAR. So why didn't FIFA force the VAR for the playoffs?
I
That's the
mean, that's
question.
the case of unfunded mandate. I mean, if FIFA was willing to pony up the money to put it in, they could do that. But FIFA is fundamentally a money making organization. They want to make it, not spend it, and they can't force their members to spend money that they don't have.
That's weird because Infantino proposed to give 1.5 million of euros to every African country if he is re-elected.
I mean, sure, but
So
1.5 million
they have
euros.
the money. They have the money. They
Yeah.
have the money.
1.5 million euros is a drop in the bucket for the overall expenditures of a national federation and a national entire economy of football.
That's just an update to their stadiums or their fields or whatever. That's not anything past that. Maybe player wages, but that's the only other thing.
Yeah.
I think we should move on. Move on to the next game.
Okay, so the third game is Ghana versus Nigeria.
Wow.
Two boring draws, I thought.
Well, we don't have many stuff to say, I guess, except the fact
Yeah,
that
I mean, really, I think the big thing about this is just unfortunate draw. Like, Ghana and Nigeria are two of the best teams in CAF traditionally, and to have to play each other kind of sucks, but it is what it is, and Nigeria was the team that went out.
Yeah, so only two things to say about this match: that we can see Ghana again in the World Cup since they missed the last time, and also maybe something that is heartbreaking for me at least, we will not see the traditional Argentina versus Nigeria in the group stage, and I'm
Yeah.
sad about it. This is
Yeah.
some people say Brazil Germany is the most played match in the World Cup. No, 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 no. It's Argentina versus Nigeria, and everyone knows this is the match we want to see in every World Cup.
Yeah. Can I give my input on this?
Yes.
Yeah, so Nigeria, man. I mean, this is disappointing. I mean, I think many people expect them to progress. We saw how bad Ghana were in the AFCON, but it shows how time can change, and that it shows how nations, maybe against big nations, they always turn up. Like there's some nation teams that are like very mediocre, and like when it comes to playing against their teams of their size. But when it comes to big teams, like big nations, I mean, they always showing up. And this is like a rivalry. The two nations aren't exactly like friends. They kind of have like this kind of hate thing against each other, and I think Ghana for me they really defensively I thought they looked really good. The first leg I think they definitely were the better team by they were definitely the better team, and I think Nigeria were lucky to get a draw first leg. And Ghana, man, that away goal. I mean, did you guys see what the goalkeeper did for Nigeria? Because that was a really that was a bad mistake. That he should have saved, in my opinion. And
That's why it calls qualifiers. Every mistake, you miss the World Cup.
yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. And then Nigeria will trust Oking equalized from the penalty. And would you guys believe it? I think Nigeria even had a goal disallowed. I think Osterman scored, but it was offside, so it didn't count. So
It's quite possible. I don't remember about that, to be fair.
yeah. And it seemed like for me, Nigeria just like it seemed like the second half they just gave up. Like they didn't want to do this anymore. It's just like crazy. And there was a lot of craziness in the stadium. I know the stadium, like a lot of people were very mad, and the like Nigerian fans were very mad, and it's just like really crazy, for Ghana to make it to the World Cup. I mean, who would have thought they would have made the World Cup after that showing they had in the AFCON? It was crazy. So I give it up to them, and let's see what they do in World Cup, man. Because Nigeria, man, disappointing indeed. I mean, Eguvan, I think he's actually stepped down, and I think that another issue in Nigeria, guys, that I think many people don't talk about is the FA. I think the FA is not really that great, and
I think we can. There are so many issues in Africa that we can literally make an entire series about it. So I guess we should move on. We should move on because I don't want to spend 1 hour to explain why on this FA is a problem before we do all the other FAs.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, just in summary, I would say their problems aren't substantially different from most of Africa. I mean, it's all the same sort of issues. Like what I was saying earlier, which I don't need to repeat.
Most FAs have corruption problems and everything. Our fourth match in Africa is Congo DR and Morocco.
This was where team went for Morocco.
And
yeah, I mean, Congo DR is an up and coming strong side. They're just not there yet. I mean, I think that was the conclusion out of this.
They're getting better. They're getting better. Something that is surprising is despite all the problems in the Moroccan squad, they have a lot of issues between the coach and the players, and the FA at some point. It's the fact that they managed to at least draw in the Stade des Martyrs. The Stade des Martyrs is the stadium where many Africans don't want to play there because Congo have like a big boost when they play there. It's not just home advantage. A lot of African nations break their teeth on Congo there, and Congo won a lot of playoff matches in Stade des Martyrs.
Yep, that's international. It's international football. I mean, you home matches are hard to play at, or I mean, road matches are hard to play at because they get good.
So at the moment, Morocco managed to get a tie there. You know that Congo was not ready yet. If their own, I want to say, divine protection at home doesn't even work in this famous stadium for home advantage, it was over for Congo and it was shown in the West side. 4-1, and the Morocco team was in the World Cup despite all the problems inside the squad.
Yeah, and maybe with manager as well.
I do see it as a good sign that the DRC did score a couple goals against one of the top nations in Africa. It shows that they do have a little bit of skill to be able to make it this far, and that they did deserve to go to this level.
Yeah, not a lot to be said about this team. I guess we should move on. The last and final. Wait, I say 2 words that have the same meaning. Okay, so the fifth matchup was Mali versus Tunisia.
So while I said that Ghana Nigeria was the unlucky draw, this might have been the lucky draw. Not impressed with either side. Tunisia was the better side. Would they have beaten a Nigeria or a Algeria? That or an Egypt? Probably not. But they got the job done that was actually in front of them, and they did it.
I thought Mali was pretty impressive.
It was 2 blank match. The only goal in both matches was a non-goal by Sissako.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw nothing going on in those matches that was good. I mean, I guess that also means that there was no mistakes to capitalize on. So in that sense, good defense, but got to finish.
Mali looked to be the better team in the second match. It just so happened, I believe they got a red card that match, and so they were down to 10 men. But they were the offensive side. They just couldn't find the back of the net.
Yeah, like I said, finishing is I think the issue for Mali and for Tunisia as well. Really.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tunisia. I mean, this is a team that it's kind of hard team to gauge because like I feel like they're a team that is like a well-rounded team. But, I just feel like this team kind of disappoints against like. I feel like this is a team that relishes playing against big teams, but when it comes to like playing against like not really the strongest opposition, they kind of always like kind of underwhelm. So remember they beat Nigeria in the AFCON, right? But they lost to like the next game to Burkina Faso. So like that's kind of weird. Don't you guys think? So
Yeah, to resume, Mali Tunisia was the least hyped matchup, and the score just proved to us why it was the least hyped matchup. No, no, no.
I guess Tunisia got revenge for AFCON. So
Yeah, surely. We don't have nothing else to say since this is. I
No.
think it is one of the few continents that we know all the qualified teams. So I
Mhm.
propose that we left Africa, we cross over the Atlantic Ocean, and we go over South America and CONMEBOL.
Yep, that sounds good to me. I mean, so yeah, some of the obvious things happen. I mean, yeah, Brazil and Argentina are the class of South America. That's no surprise. A little disappointed in Chile. They usually a bit better, but they don't qualify every time, and it's not that big of a surprise to see them out. Paraguay, Bolivia, Venezuela rarely, if ever, qualify. So we saw that. So it's really that middle of the pack. And Uruguay and Ecuador were the ones that got it done. So props to them. We'll see Peru in the playoffs. Yeah, really that final match for Peru beating Paraguay. Did they complete the assignment?
yeah. I think one nation that I think many of us expected to qualify, they didn't, was Colombia. I think that was one of the most disappointing ones. And
Yeah.
I mean, they had like a 7 match. I think they had like a 7 match streak where they didn't score a goal. Like, I mean, that's just pathetic. Like,
Yeah, they were just bad this time
yeah,
around.
you know what the crazy part is, right? You know the game against Peru they had at home. They almost got a draw from that game, which would have actually been enough for them to get a playoff spot because ultimately Peru, I think they advanced by 1 point.
Yep.
So had they got that draw, Colombia could have been the playoffs. And you know what the ironic part is? We said they got too many draws, but technically they just needed a draw at home to get to the playoffs. Like it's like really weird.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean they had a better goal difference than Peru. Colombia +1,
yeah.
Peru -3, but and I think it's a better goal difference than Uruguay, which had 0. So, but yeah, you just gotta get the matches at the right time, I guess.
Yeah, and as for Uruguay, I mean they looked really bad. I mean they had to sack their manager Oscar Tabarez. I think they brought him. I forgot the new manager's name. But they looked really decent. How they seemingly fixed the things up, and now they're in the World Cup. And as for Ecuador, I think it's a great achievement. I mean, they were third for most of the qualifiers, I believe, and they got results against Brazil and Argentina, which is really impressive. Because, Brazil and Argentina haven't lost a game, right? And I think that's very impressive to see what Ecuador can do. And I was really impressed what they did. So
Yeah, it's already difficult to not lose a game in South America. It seems nearly impossible to not have two teams not lose in South America.
Yeah, we do say that with the caveat that there is a missing game that we will see what happens with that going forward.
I've heard that they're going to replay it.
Match in Brazil has not been played yet. Of course, it doesn't really matter if the qualifiers, both teams are already qualified. But technically, one of those teams could still lose. And that won't be true.
yeah. So yeah, Rubik, you have anything to say?
All I wanted to say is that once again, the CONMEBOL proved to us that it might be the hardest qualifying group in all of the entire world,
Mhm.
as any point you have might qualify you, but does not confirm the qualification. Everything is not settled until the last minute of the last day, and we have seen that. Colombia was only 1 point away to qualify, And I still remember, even so this time it's not as clear as usual. I remember in 2018 during the last match day, each time a goal was scored in match day 18, the ranking was changed drastically. And you
Yeah.
couldn't even predict what could happen until the last minute. It was something very thriving. I'm a bit sad it didn't happen this time, so since it seems that some team really get too strong for the group, while some others really fell down. But all I want to look for is the fact that Ecuador managed to make a very good qualifiers, I may say, for what they were supposed to be. They are back in the World Cup, so maybe they can do something. Maybe reach the round of 16 for once. We don't know. Sadly, Chile and Colombia, that was known as very good teams 10 years ago, we must accept the fact that they are not anymore. And maybe Peru might become one of the top, not top, but one of those teams you expect to have in every World Cup in the upcoming years. Because
Well, yeah, certainly once CONMEBOL gets more spots, which begins in 2026, yeah, you're going to see some more of these teams that have been on the margins, the Colombias, the Ecuadors, the Perus, Chile, the teams that basically rotate and fight for the final spot in the half, will now more securely have spots. There'll just be more space for them, so we'll see them more frequently.
So yeah, so what I wanted to say, so yeah, I don't see Peru losing the qualifiers again. I mean
I would agree with that.
the playoff. I mean against the Asian teams that will go after that.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree. I don't see
th-
any way that Peru loses that. Australia and the UAE just aren't good enough right now.
they are
Yeah.
not
Let's.
they are not a top 16 worldwide team, but
Yeah. I
Peru.
think we should quickly mention about Paraguay, Bolivia, Venezuela. Bolivia, they're just a home team. I mean, they're just not good on the road. The altitude is just really the main thing for them. And it's crazy that actually they put up a really good fight, but as I said, their home form really helped. As for Venezuela, they're just. I mean, I just don't think I feel like this Venezuela team is very underwhelming. I feel like they have like good players, but like it always seems like they always underperform when it comes to these games.
Well, I mean, fundamentally, Venezuela is the one outlier in CONMEBOL in the sense that every other CONMEBOL nation is football mad. That is their thing. That is what they do. In Venezuela, that's just not the case. Venezuela is a baseball nation.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And they are going to struggle in CONMEBOL as a result because they just don't put the energy into it. And I mean the reason Bolivia continues to struggle largely is just the economic problems. They continue to just not have the development, and to a lesser extent that's true for Paraguay.
Yeah.
I mean they are in a deep crisis, so it doesn't even help since it's not even the first sport in the country.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true as well. Yeah, Venezuela, on top of that, has another economic
As for
crisis.
Paraguay, they're a very difficult nation to play against. I know they finished eighth, but they got 2 draws against Argentina, guys. 2 draws. Like they didn't lose to Argentina at all, and I think they even put up a good fight against Brazil. Be wrong there, but they're a very difficult nation. The defensively, I think they're very tough to break down, and it's kind of like similar to like the other nations in the sense that just they just don't score enough goals. I think that's another issue, and so Paraguay, man, yeah, they're just in and there. They were close. I mean not close, but like they're like they didn't really do much, but like it's not like an easy 3 points. Like and as Rubik said, like this is probably the toughest qualifiers by a huge stretch because all these nations are not really. There's like not any of them are really that bad. Like
No, I mean,
all.
even though I said Venezuela, it has their issues. I mean, they would be a mid-tier team in most confederations at worst.
Yeah, it's just
They're
like
solid.
Yeah, I think Venezuela is ranked like 80th worldwide. So even them that are not seen as a good nation to start are still in the top 15 worldwide. 50%
Yeah.
percent I wanted to say. So yeah, that is de facto the best confederation overall.
I
Even
want to ask one
so,
quick thing
I
before.
No
mean,
bad team.
they have 3 World Cup winners that made it to the World Cup: Brazil,
Yep.
Yeah,
Argentina,
can I ask one
Uruguay.
quick question real quick?
Yeah, 30% of their confederation has won a World Cup.
Yeah. Can I
You
ask
think of it that way? That's way larger than anything else. I mean, well, Europe is one, but
Can I ask you guys a quick general question? Do you
Yes.
guys think the level of handball has declined? Because I've heard a lot of people say that, oh, it's really Brazil, Argentina, because you look at the point gap. Brazil, Argentina are clearly way above the rest. Like everything else is they're on a league of their own. And I just want to know what you guys think. Do you guys think the level has declined, or do you think Argentina and Brazil are just that good?
the latter. I think they've always been the two of the best teams in the world. That's never going to change unless some Titanic thing happens.
I guess they declined a bit as the last time a CONMEBOL team won the World Cup was in 2002. But I may say just the current generation is a bit lower than what we are used to see, because it was in 2014. I must remind people that 5 out of 6 CONMEBOL nations reached the round of 16, if not more.
Yeah.
Many CONMEBOL nations were very good in 2014. It's just that 2018, it was not their year. It was not their year. I think it was 4 nations out of 5 that made it to the round of 16, and only 2 in the quarterfinals. But still, they are still a good confederation. It's just a bit lower than usual. But so I think it's just a temporary gap that they will go. I think this year they will go back again in strong shape.
I would not at all be surprised to see if Brazil take it in Qatar, though. So I mean, it's
Yeah. So, yeah. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I honestly think it's the latter. I actually believe CONMEBOL is getting a little better club wise, but Brazil and Argentina have always been at the top of their game.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I don't think it's really fair to say it's declined. I will say though, I feel like Uruguay is just not the same as it used to be, and I will say that like you can tell this Uruguay team is like very much towards the end of their spectrum, and you could also kind of say like Peru is. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think this Peru team is probably worse than the one they had 4 years ago, in my opinion. You know. So.
yeah. I mean, Uruguay does have a population issue that makes it hard for them to sustain being at the top, but so they're a bit cyclical, but they'll get back up there.
Yeah, I think but I think one thing we have to discuss before we move on is that Argentina have really improved a lot. I mean, like this was a nation that was like really they just scraped through the last World Cup qualifiers. And we saw in the 2019 Copa America things just didn't go their way. But it's actually interesting. Actually, in my opinion, got better as the tournament went on in 2019 Copa America, and then obviously they won the Copa America last year. I think this Argentina team is looking very good now. They're defensively solid. Messi is not doing everything. Lautaro banging the goals, and this Argentina team looks really balanced.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We should move on to the next confederation.
Yeah, we should move on. As we finish with South America, we are leaving to Asia. Okay, so I propose to start with Group A.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say about Group A in the sense that there are two teams that are good in Group A. They were the two teams that qualified out of Group A. The rest of the pot, I mean, somebody had to win it. Congrats to the United Arab Emirates. They got the assignment completed. They won their final match against a South Korea team that was already well qualified and probably wasn't that focused.
It's so impressive. I think it's the first time they did in their history, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know who I would have expected to finish third, but the top two don't surprise me.
Yeah. To elaborate there, I do somewhat agree that this was kind of very straightforward around South Korea. I mean, you look at the point margin between them and third, and it's just like a huge gap. So you can clearly tell there's a gap of quality. As for third, I believe I had United Emirates as my third place, my original prediction. I have to double check, it's been a while. As for Syria, I was disappointed in that. Like this was like really disappointing. I expected so much more from Syria. I mean, they were very close to making the last World Cup, guys. I think they lost the playoffs to Australia.
Yeah.
And yeah, Lebanon for me, they were the surprise package to this group because they actually played decent. I know they finished last at the end of the day, but they surprised me a bit because I didn't expect them to do this well. They played better than I expected. As for Iraq, oh man, um, I'm just disappointed with them. I kind of expected a little bit more from them, but I'm not too surprised with them. As for Syria, I'm most disappointed with them from this group. Uh, yeah, man. So I let the others speak about this.
No one?
I mean, this was not the most exciting of groups.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough. The game was too immense. So, I mean, it was logical. We do not have much to say. Iran and South Korea are better, they're stronger, they have the better players.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
now
it's
we
just
have Group B, and Group B is more exciting.
Oh yes, Group B. Oh man. Oh, Australia, Australia, Australia. What happened to you? Oh man, that was disappointing.
And Oman almost being able to catch up, like they were already out before the last
Yeah.
match.
Oman had a great run. Australia and China were the two big disappointments out of this. I expected much better from both of them. They just could not get the job done. I mean, Australia made the playoffs, but they almost don't deserve it. Oman, man, great run.
yeah. Oman
Congrats
was
to Vietnam. Congrats to Vietnam for winning their first ever round 3 match.
Yeah, I also I think I read something that they're the first Southeastern Asian to win a playoff match. I'm not playoff match, sorry. Win a match in the final round. I think I heard something like that. I might be wrong.
I'm not
Yeah,
even
that could
sure.
be. Southeast Asia's not that great in the men's game.
So that's a pretty impressive
I'm not
achievement.
even sure we can say it's a final round because technically the playoff there is a fourth round between Australia and United
Yeah,
Arab
yeah,
Emirates.
they have the fourth round, but
Yeah, you know what I meant.
we went the third round.
But
Yeah,
yeah, we understand what you said. Don't worry, we are not firing you for that. But
Yeah. I gotta be honest with you. Saudi Arabia really impressed me. I did not expect them to do this well. I had Japan expected, although there was a big shock for Japan when they lost their first game to Oman. everyone was panicking. Like there was a lot of
Yeah.
panics, and then remember they lost against Saudi Arabia. It was looking really bad for Japan. I mean, 3 points the first window it looked really bad, but as they picked things up and they get it to them, and they threw strong second place. As for Saudi Arabia, as I said, I think they was surprised. Definitely surprised me, and they looked really solid as a unit. You know.
yeah. I mean,
They have
I
the
saw
core.
Saudi Arabia in the 2018 World Cup, and I was just completely disappointed by just how bad they were. And then to now see them, I guess, do well in Asian qualifying like this. I mean, I'm kind of interested to see. Does that mean they've actually turned it around, or is that just an indictment of Asia and they're going to roll out the same poor performance that we saw with them in Russia?
Yeah, well, they do have the new Morocco's old coach, Harvey Renard, I think is the name. So, and I think he did a decent job with Morocco in the World Cup 2018. So, but yeah, it could be disappointment again for Saudi Arabia, and yeah, it's kind of hard to judge these Asian nations because like the qualifiers isn't really like all that word calling it. It's kind of like pretty straightforward for the top nations. Obviously, it's not that straightforward, but my point here is that we need to see how they do in the World Cup because that's going to be really where we really measure them. And I'll be honest with you guys, I think the Asian nations got a really tough draw. I don't think any Asian nation got an easy draw in this World Cup, in my opinion. Because I know
No, I would be surprised if we saw even one advance to the round of 16. Like
Yeah,
they're just not in a good spot, and that's partly because they're not that good, but also partly that they did not get a draw luck either.
Yeah, so
I think Iran has the best chance of all of them, though.
Yeah, Iran's probably the best team right now in Asia.
yeah, but yeah. I guess that's pretty much about that for Asia. So, for Australia, man, I mean, this is how they got to. I mean, they made the World Cup last time by the playoffs. So, but this time around, it's not that straightforward because
I mean, Peru's going to be a much harder opponent than Honduras.
Yeah.
Didn't we have an Australia-Peru intercontinental playoffs for 2010?
I think
remember, I gotta
it
check.
will happen. So I mean, I think Australia will beat UAE in the Asian playoff. And when I think about it, you have Peru and maybe Australia playing each other for the last spot in France group in the World Cup. And like you have already France and Denmark, so it's kinda like 2018, at least for me.
Yeah.
All the teams in my group again. Oh man, memories.
I guess we should move on.
Yeah, So the last confederation for us is Europe, the World Cup. No, not the World Cup. The World Cup champions continent, the continent where football was born, and where a lot
Yeah,
of shit storm
we got
happened.
so we got three paths in the playoffs. I mean, all the groups already happened, so I guess we're just really talking about playoffs at this point, right?
So
Yeah.
even so it's not finished, I propose just to talk a little bit about Path A.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gareth Bale, man, what a player! Phenomenal player, man.
So there was only the first semi-final that was played in Cardiff between Wales and Australia, and the country of Gareth Bale won 2-1 and qualified for the final in again Cardiff. Due to the war, obviously, Scotland versus Ukraine was not played yet and will be played in 1st June. And the winner of this match will, of course, play Wales in the group final to decide the last European country to advance to the World Cup. Do you have any
Yeah.
prediction to make before it happens? Because episode 4 will be made after that path.
I mean,
I
I think
feel like
Wales is the best team of the three by far, and I'm not even convinced the semifinals ever going to get played. So,
um, if Ukraine's able to play, I don't know how good they're gonna be because of the stuff that has happened. Just are they haven't had a lot of playing time, and so it's gonna be like restarting from scratch again. So I don't know if they're gonna be a Scotland side that's decent enough to be able to beat what Ukraine would be able to put up.
yeah.
Yeah. My thoughts is yeah, it's difficult to see because like with the whole situation going in Ukraine. Obviously, I don't want to get too political here, but unfortunately, kind of have to here.
I may think that Scotland will win, but it's not impossible that the war, and sometimes the war have proven that it help teams perform better. What I meant is, do you remember what Syria did for the 2018 qualifiers? The country was really at war still, and it brings a lot of hopes in the country and the players. And that was in part the civil war that pushed the players to perform their best to give hope to their country, and that led to the probably the best run ever for Syria, where they were quite close to qualify for the World Cup, I may say. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying it will happen again, but it's still a possibility that this war will the players will use the war to and their performance to give hope to their country, and that will give them confidence to play the best for their country.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I would also wouldn't be surprised if Ukraine would, in fact, should they play, be able to go out and beat Scotland on those sorts of grounds. But I do think Wales is a completely different animal from Scotland, and just like with Syria, in the end, they did have that great run. They did eventually run into an Australia side that was just too good. I think that would be the situation when they get that match with Wales.
Yeah. Let me. So as I was saying, yeah. I mean, Wales, as I said, Gareth Bale produced a double in the day, and you can tell that he's really committed to the national team because obviously we know he doesn't. Obviously, doesn't really care about Real Madrid anymore at this point, and obviously I know he cares about golf, but with Scotland and Ukraine, man, I don't think the match is gonna get played. I don't think the match is gonna get played. Even if it does get played, I find it very difficult to back Ukraine, especially the fact it's on the road, and we know how Scotland will be motivated at home. Um,
yeah,
so
it's true that Scotland haven't really reached a World Cup since 1998, so they
yeah,
want to
so
go back to the World Cup stage.
yeah, and the great thing about this is that we're gonna see a nation in the World Cup that I haven't seen in a long time. Like I think last time Ukraine made was like 2006. I think I might be wrong. You
It
guys
was
can double check.
2006 indeed.
Yeah, so it's like been a long time. So we're gonna see like a different nation. Like we're gonna see one that we haven't seen in a long time, and that's the beauty about it. And that
Bit of a hot
Wales.
take. I don't think the Wales Austria game should have been played when that did. I think they should have delayed that till June as well, make it more fair for that path. But that's just me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I kind of agree with you, but I mean it's already happened, so we can't do anything about that, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah, so Wales and we could potentially Wales Scotland final. That'd be an insane final. And guys, I have a feeling that Wales will make the World Cup. My main reason I think they'll make it is mainly because I feel like all three of these nations are around the same level, but I think Bale is the X factor, and I feel like Bale will show up. I just have that feeling,
Yeah.
and I feel like he's just gonna be the difference maker. Wales being at home is a huge advantage to have because they have a very good record at home. I don't think they've lost at home for a long time now. I think last time they did was like 2018, so it's been a while since they've lost. And I just think that for me, Wales are just really solid, man. And we could potentially see Gareth Bale in the World Cup, man. How crazy would that be? And this could be his final and only World Cup appearance. You know.
I know
So
Welsh guys that will brag up for 3 weeks.
yeah. So I think Wales will make it personally from Hathaway.
So yeah, I think like if Wales wins this match and there are good chances that they will win. We know someone that will talk a lot about this for a long time, and that will make weird predictions to say that they will go to the semifinals and stuff. You know who I
Yeah.
am talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe we should move on to Path B.
Exactly. So to resume, Path B was the first semi-final. Russia versus Poland was cancelled for obvious reasons, and so Poland was given a free ticket to the final of the group. The other semi-final played in Solna in Sweden have seen the host country, Sweden, to win 1-0 on extra time. And so the Poland-Sweden final in Charles was won 2-0 by Poland with a penalty for Lewandowski.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about, we talked about the unfair semifinal in March. Maybe this final should have been delayed to June just to let Sweden play on full rest, rather than having to play on 5 days rest on 120 minutes while Poland was completely fresh. Yes, I know they had a friendly, but still.
Yeah.
And Poland but I think Poland was a better team. I think they have Lewandowski, which is just something Sweden just cannot match these days, with Ibrahimovic not really with the team. So, yeah.
I think the
Yeah. I mean,
saddest part is that except Czech Republic, all nations in that path was in the last World Cup. I mean, Russia was quarterfinalist, and yes, the war made them to be disqualified. Poland was, they were there. They weren't good because yes, they totally dropped the tournament. I mean, in mental. But Sweden was a quarterfinalist, and made a really good run in this World Cup. And because of that draw, only one of them was able to continue their story.
yeah.
Yeah.
For this one, I think it's interesting because Poland they kind of I don't know. It's kind of weird that they qualified. They qualified after playing one game. Like that's really weird to say. No, but obviously I know the whole
I
situation.
mean, everybody played the group stage. They had to finish second place. So,
Yeah, I mean, like Poland, man, they got a new manager and they were playing at home as well. And I feel like I heard that this new manager is like kind of a defensive kind of coach, which I guess kind of makes sense why they were so decent. It's like it seemed like whenever Poland got that early goal, second half, we just couldn't handle it in, and Sweden were gonna obviously try to score and get, but Poland, counterattacked and got the second goal through Zelensky. And for this Poland team, man, I'm not really sure what to make of them because I've noticed this team is very, very good in the qualifiers, but when it comes to actual World Cup or like international tournaments, they always, always disappoint. They generally disappoint, and let's see if that trend.
You just reminded me that it's true. The new coach I've just arrived before the playoffs, and so he have a 100% win rate. And he only made one match, and he already say, "Hey, I made you qualify for the World Cup. I'm a good coach."
Like that's like crazy, and but obviously circumstances.
Bro, he
like
speed runs at qualifiers. Only one match is qualified for the World Cup. That's a speed run, 100% speed run.
yeah, I mean this is crazy. And yeah, I mean for Poland in particular, I think this is a good achievement for them to be back. And let's see if Lewandowski can finally score in the World Cup. And as for Sweden, man, I'm disappointed with them. I kind of expected them to make it through. You have players like Isak Forsberg, Kuleveski, Olsen as well. But I feel like the issue with Sweden is just that I think the manager's too defensive. I forgot the manager's name. But, I feel like he's a bit of a too defensive kind of coach, and I think that's why weren't able to see them attack so freely. Because remember, guys, they were in a great position to not directly qualify, but we all know what they did against Georgia and Greece. That's why they're in this position, and they have themselves to blame. And when you're incapable of beating Georgia and Greece on the road, that's kind of, you don't really deserve to be in a World Cup. I'm sorry to say, you know.
That's the sad
With all
part
due
in
respect to Georgia and
qualifiers.
Greece.
That's the sad part in qualifiers that in every confederation you have to put out some team that you know have the level to play in the World Cup. But since the number of spots is limited, you know that you have to break some earth. And sadly, Sweden is one of those countries that you know that they have the level required to play the World Cup, but they must get out with the brush.
Yeah. Remember, Sweden, they broke Italy's hearts last time. And we're actually going to get Italy now.
And yes, we are going to Path C. Oh man, I waited all day for this, just for this. The best.
Italy, what happened?
The best 3 minutes of my life. It's a lie. Okay, so for this final bracket, the first semi-final in Porto have seen Portugal win 3-1 against Turkey. So one of the most cockiest team in the world are out in the semi-finals. Good news. I'm serious. I remember all the Turkish fans saying, "Yeah, we are a strong team. We will gonna be the outsider of the tournament." Oh yeah, out we will be, but in the group stage. Um,
Man.
I mean, yeah, they only conceded 3 goals in the qualifiers, but they also conceded 3 goals in the opening game.
Yeah, I mean, Portugal is a very good team that absolutely deserves to go to the World Cup, and the result here, Portugal being the team to come out of this bracket, does not surprise me at all. It is what I predicted. Their opponent in the final may have surprised me, but
Yeah,
I mean, Portugal is very good, and they showed it.
yeah, and on the opposite side, Italy decided to disrespect the North Macedonians by playing in Palermo instead of Roma, got their karma to them, and they lost 1-0, which is a big surprise because they are European champions. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
Italy has, shown that in the World Cup qualifying they just aren't really good. They didn't qualify last time either. They have, they won a European championship that was a very unique one, and they did a good job there. But yeah, they're struggling from a football perspective right now, and
Yeah,
they need new players.
Hey, Ryubix,
yes.
was this the first time that the European champion did not make a World Cup on either side?
I think Greece didn't.
I think Greece didn't make it after the 2004 win. To be fair, no. I'm 100% sure they didn't qualify for 2006.
But did they qualify for 2002?
No either. No. They only made 3 World Cups in their history. They made to 1990 in Italy. They made it to 2010 South Africa and 2014 Brazil.
Okay.
No, it's not the first time, but it's been a long time. The European champions are not in the following World Cup. It's true.
Rubik's. I think we need to have like a whole different discussion. I think we need to have like another podcast just for Italy itself, because this is a very embarrassing. Like, I would argue this is even worse than 2018, because at least you lost to a nation that made the World Cup, right? Sweden, because Sweden at least like did well in the World Cup.
Sam, they are in the World Cup. They are in Group A. The I group. Algeria, Italy, Turkey.
What?
Panama. No, it's a joke in France where in last World Cup we said there was the Group 9 with Algeria, Italy, and some countries that are popular in France, and the fans are often deemed as toxic to us. So, to provoke them, we do little montage where they appear in the 9th group.
Yeah, I saw this meme on Twitter. Like, there's like a group L, right? You have like Colombia, Sweden, Colombia, Italy,
Exactly
and then Nigeria.
Exactly that. And so yeah,
I probably would have also included the United States, right?
So yeah, it's still a shock for the world that Italy are once again out of the World Cup.
If I'm being honest with
Um,
you guys, I'll be honest with you. Even if they did beat North Macedonia, I don't think they beat Portugal. So
Yeah,
we'd
yeah,
probably have
that's
to
what I was
anyway.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
probably couldn't beat Portugal, but at least the elimination wouldn't be a shock. As Portugal, Italy, it was expected that one of them was out, but not out by North Macedonia. Everyone expected one of those two to be out in the final, not the semi-finals.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. I think we need to have another discussion, as I said. Like we need to like maybe do over the summer, like discuss about Italy because this is a gargantuc failure. I mean, we can go long
But
and hard.
we can talk a little about it right now. I mean, to be resume.
So
I know we can tell right now, but we can't like go like super in depth. You know,
No,
that's
but
interesting.
I just want to make a little resume of the match because I haven't finished my resume yet.
Yeah.
Italy, you expected them to have learned their lessons. They didn't. I mean, no, yes, they learned because they totally dominated the match. They made like 40 shots against 5, but really, that's your average FIFA match in FUT Champions mode. So
Yeah, you know it's crazy, right?
that's what I wanted to say. And in the final, happily for me, I have Portuguese family. Portugal won 2-0 to North Macedonia in Porto, and they reached the World Cup once again, and with maybe the last World Cup for Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to say something for the Italy North Macedonia game. At least the first time Italy have lost a World Cup qualifier home game in their history. Yeah, wow, that's crazy, man. You know the crazy thing is, it's a one-off game, right? And in a one-off game, anything can happen. A one-off game, anything can happen. And for North Macedonia, man, they defended like warriors on the day. And you know what's really interesting, guys? The person that scored the goal for North Macedonia, he actually scored against Italy in 2018 World Cup qualifiers. That actually that actually made Italy draw the game. Like they actually drew the game because of him. I forgot the name. Tajik, I think is the name. It was like crazy, you know. And
yeah.
As for Portugal, Turkey, Portugal looked really good in the first half. But second half, Turkey looked really good. Yilmaz got the goal, and then he even missed a penalty. And you know, Portugal center backs that are playing on the day. You know who they had their center backs? They had Pereira and Fonte because Diaz, I think, was injured, and I believe Pepe tested positive. So that's a really weird back line to have, like Pereira and Fonte, because you know Pereira is a CDM, right? He's not a center back. That's why they made them look a little exposed there.
I want to point out two things. The first, Turkey are wasting their golden generation. I mean, some people, me the first, are often bragging how Turkey doesn't do well in qualifiers and continental cups, but I think they have a very good team actually, very good players. I can see Yilmaz playing very well in Ligue 1, and I see that Turkish players in the national team have quite good performances in the top leagues in Europe. It's just that they are unlucky. I think the national team in itself is unlucky in many aspects, and instead they have bad draws, they have bad days, bad luck. They right now they have the bad draw. Portugal, Italy, and North Macedonia was a group of death, so it was not it was a big issue for them to qualify. And for Portugal, I want to point out the fact that in 2 games, Ronaldo never scored.
True. Yeah, they had 4 other players score. He didn't score. Yep.
There was 5 goals for Portugal, and in average or low nations, even so, you expect what I would call the sidekicks. You expect them to score a little. You usually see Ronaldo doing his hat tricks, doing 5, 6 goals in the
Yeah.
best cases.
But that actually, I think, bodes well for Portugal.
What?
I think it bodes well for Portugal that they're able to score goals without him, and that he's not their only option offensively.
Yeah.
Especially in the long term, that they're able to be able, because he's probably not going to go to 2026. So they're going to have options in the attack, and they're going to be good for some time to come, rather than what could have happened, which is when he's gone, they're just bad. But that's not going to be the case. So that's good.
Yeah.
I feel like Turkey was always overhyped. I'm not saying that they're a bad team; they're a good team, but I don't know. just even in the Euros, I was like, I don't see Turkey making it. I don't know what the hype is all about. Just because they have good players doesn't mean that they're the best team in that group. And then same with this path. Like, I did not think Portugal was going to have a tough time against Turkey at all.
Yeah.
See, the thing, Turkey's a weird team because I feel like they're a team that, I mean, even the qualifiers, I mean, they didn't look that impressive. I mean, remember, I think they drew like 2 games after and winning positions. Like, I think the nations at the top of my head, like, I think they drew to Gibraltar and like Montenegro. And like after being like, they beat like the 2 strongest nations in the group, like Netherlands and Turkey, right? Not Turkey, sorry, Norway. But then they drew those next 2 games, and that's like really disappointing. That it's just weird. Like this is a team that I feel like plays well against good teams. Big like they have the capability of playing well against the big teams. But when it comes to playing against like teams that they're like similar caliber, they always seem to struggle against, and it's just kind of like really weird. And yeah, I kind of agree with Sam. Like I didn't really think Turkey would be that spectacular Euros. I mean, I know a lot of people said they would be the dark horse and everything like that. I just think that for me, it's mainly because of what they did in the qualifiers. I think people just look at that, but people need to understand that in football, it's all about matchups. Matchups is the most important thing. It doesn't matter which team has the better players or anything like that. It's about the matchups and how each team matches another, like tactics and everything like that. And so it's important that you understand that. So
yeah. So
getting back to Portugal's point, I just want to speak briefly about Portugal. And may I speak about Portugal real quick?
Of course.
Yeah. I think Portugal is a good team. I think they have a lot of good players, but I think the issue with Portugal is that I don't think Fernando Santos is a guy to lead them forward. I think he's a bit of too defensive, and I think that's why Portugal didn't do so well in the qualifiers because that penultimate game the game against Serbia, were literally defending. Serbia were literally all over them in the second half, and they were just trying to see how to draw because the crazy part is that Portugal just needed a draw. They even a draw would have been enough for them to make it through. But they tried to like defend it, and and it's just like just pathetic. Like I feel like this Portugal national team, they have so many good players, man. You have like Ronaldo, Felix, Ronaldo Silva, then you have Renato Sanchez, then you have Bruno Fernandes. I mean, it's like the depth they have is insane, but it's just like the team as a whole, it's like very much like just like too defensive. Like the team is just too pragmatic, and I think that's the issue why Portugal didn't qualify directly. So, and last one, North Macedonia. I think this is a good nation. They have some great players. Obviously, Elmas comes to mind, and their goalkeeper, I forgot his name, Jamirski, plays for Rayo Vallecano. But I think the issue with this North Macedonian team is that they're just not really at the level of Portugal, or they're just not really at the level of Portugal, which is why Portugal won the game.
I mean, they're not the whole of Italy either, but they were able to beat them. So
yeah. So I mean, they're just not really at the level to compete. And let's be real, guys. If you think about it, North Macedonia really made the final stage because they beat Germany on the road, and that was under Joachim Low. So imagine they didn't beat Germany, they wouldn't even be in this playoffs right now.
Yeah, upsets happen, and that's why we actually watch the game. If the better team always won, it wouldn't be interesting.
Yeah, but that's a story for another time because right now we have made all the way around the world with the 6 confederation, and I don't think we have much to say now, so I must bring this to an end.
I think we're good here.
I will mention to the viewers, we do plan on making a podcast specifically for the World Cup and stuff. We just want to wait till all the qualifiers are finished, so that'll be sometime after June.
Yeah, so expect the next episode to be air in late June, maybe mid to late June. So all the qualifiers has finished and we can make predictions, final predictions about the World Cup. So that's all for this podcast. We've talked about the 6 continental confederations.
Thanks,
qualifiers.
for coming
I
on.
wanted to make qualifiers. So thank you, AD and mainstreet for coming to our podcast. I hope
Happy
you
to be here.
enjoyed.
Thank you.
No problem, man.
Of course, AD, I will put everything about you in the description. So your channel, your Twitter, you just have to give me the links and I will do the work. Sam, once again, we did a great duo.
Always. and link to the IFC, the International Football Confederation's competitions Discord, be in the description as well.
Our Discord server obviously will be in the description as well if you want to talk with us between podcast and international matches. And thank you, the viewers, for watching us and supporting us since now 3 episodes. So we are 7 episodes away from a celebration, I guess. So I hope you enjoyed it. I wish everyone a good morning, noon, or evening based on where you live. And see you next time on this Ryubix Sam Talks show.